Hey everyone, I'm Chris,
And I'm Adam.
and welcome to the Gamers Hall.
So today, what we're going to talk about is alignments.
How does it work in the game? How does it affect the game? How do the players and DMs see alignment or use alignment in game?
And delve into what that means a little bit more. We might get a little heady with this, a little, go outside of the game of it a little bit, but I think it's important to know so you can add more story elements to your campaigns to understand how alignment works. Because a lot of this will create very flavorful and enjoying moments when playing towards an alignment or against an alignment.
Yeah, and not to mention, alignment has a lot of world building aspects for newer and older DMs.
Yeah. And also the expectations of alignment now and the expectations of alignments then. Very different. Especially in this new age.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into those right now.
All right, so first we're going to get to how does it function in the game and with your players.
Okay. So first of all, we need to set a base of how D&D has alignment in the game by the book. And it says alignment is a combination of two factors. A moral code or morality, and the other describes an attitude towards society and order. The morality is good, evil, and neutral, and the attitude towards is lawful, chaotic, or neutral. So on a very basic stance, this is saying on a moral code of basically the whole universe. This whole campaign, whatever you're playing by, the universe plays by these rules. So it's assumed by everything here in the game, and it should be assumed by players and DMs, the game expects everybody to be on the same moral code. That is important.
Yeah, because, but, at the same time, they expect it, but it varies and differs.
It varies and differs, and especially from campaign setting to campaign setting,
Yes.
which we'll get into more later. But on pen to paper, what this says is this is the expectation. Okay, that way everybody plays by the same rules,
Right.
which is good to understand. Everybody's on the same rules. We all want to be on the same.
Yeah,
rules.
this is the baseline playing field.
So that doesn't change. Well, also alignments have are based on usually kind of what's created stuff. They also talk about good deities have created good creatures, and they typically naturally have those good tendencies on this moral code, and the evil deities have created evil creatures, and they play on that side of the moral code because the universe has dictated the order of this.
Yeah, which
Which is fine.
Frankenstein. Where does Frankenstein sit? You had a scientist who, in the beginning, was actually good. Mm-hmm. Like if you go by the moral compass that is, looked on in the book, but
he's created definitely an evil act that he shouldn't have done.
Something happened.
Something taboo.
And it led him to creating something. He had a want. He had a need. He needed to have this. So how did he get it? He did something very immoral and created something. And is that creature moral, immoral, good, evil?
Well, by book stance, I would say that what he has done is an evil act. He has done something that is taboo to the area that he is in, and by the standards that most of the society plays by, he has done something immoral and evil. Although in his head, and like all great villains also, in their head they're doing the right thing. Right?
Yeah. But society saw it that way too. When they saw Frankenstein, they're like, that is an evil, toxic creation.
And they came at him with pitchforks.
And fire.
So that mechanically, that's how alignment is looked at in this. It's setting a bar, an expectation. All alignments set a bar and an expectation for the DM and the player to play by.
All right, but let's get into that. The players. How do the players
we also
see and use alignment?
Well, you have spells that are based off of that, right? So you have detect good and evil.
Does detect good and evil actually detect alignment, or does it detect certain creatures?
Detect certain creatures. Right.
But it's still called detect good and evil.
So called detect good and evil. But you can actually play, and I've heard this online, where it would detect intentions at a person. Where are their intentions evil or are their intentions good?
I actually like that a lot better.
Yeah, where it is, but you have to base it off of a grounded moral code. What is expected by everybody here for their intentions? Does everything play by that same rule for that to function in that way?
But at the same time, if you go by intentions, whose intentions are you going off of? Because the intentions of the person...
We'll get into that more. Mechanically, that doesn't matter as much as...
Good point.
As it actually is the game, how it uses it. Also, there are things that have resistance, like Rakshasas. You have to hit them. They have resistance to anything that's not good or piercing. So, a good creature has to attack them with a piercing weapon to hurt them normally with melee attacks.
Yep, a good aligned creature, yeah.
So alignment plays in other parts.
There are certain weapons you cannot attune to unless you are evil or good alignment.
Right. So alignment plays more of a factor in the multiverse than usually it plays in character and normal interaction of the game.
Right.
So really, what we need to state is that alignment is a campaign and universe structure more than for players. I think is the important function of it.
Right.
Its in function is to let everybody know these are the rules of the universe. This is how everything plays by. So you can kind of fit your expectations of what something is wanting to do by that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. Because also when a player makes a character, determining on what alignment they choose... Mm-hmm. Technically should go off of how society sees it and not how the player sees it.
Right. So that's how alignment works mechanically. There's not much else to it. There's not a whole lot more examples in game of really what affects it. There are some, but not a lot. A couple of spells here or there, a couple of creatures here or there. Some small case factors, but
yeah,
for the most part, alignment doesn't play a whole lot into a normal campaign.
No, it's something that rarely gets brought up. I think every campaign I've ever played in or ever DM'd, alignment very rarely has been brought up.
Mm-hmm. And in some cases, I have taken alignment out of my campaign. I typically say you play however you think your character would play, what choices they would make in this given circumstance. Now, stating that, they've added something else to 5th edition that helps broaden alignment in a way, but allow players to make choices. And that's personality traits, bonds, and ideals. So what that does is take an alignment and give you more points of interest for what your character would do or believe in. And some of them do say good or evil or neutral. But it's really how you play it, because even the most evil character could have a good ideal, and most people would believe that, oh no, they're what they're trying to do is good, but really they're doing it for evil intentions. So that's another play, and that's a great add to 5th edition, is these bonds and stuff.
The bonds ideals, I love that they put that on the character sheet, and it's always a good reference for the players to be like, well, we haven't played in a while, and we just got back into it. What was this character again? Oh, okay, good. I've got something to reference. It's very. I really love that 5th edition added that.
And what that does is give flexibility. That's the little bit of bend to some of these alignments, because before, especially in 1st and 2nd edition, when you had every paladin's lawful good, every paladin follows a strict.
Every monk was also lawful.
Yeah. Was it rogues couldn't be lawful? I couldn't remember.
I don't remember, but
there are some other very strict alignment things for certain classes and subclasses and stuff like that. You had to be this to ever be that. And obviously, through the editions, they've gotten rid of a lot of that. In 5th edition, it's wide open. And now it's more of a suggestion than it is a hard and fast rule.
All right, so some examples of alignments are, you got your angels, your devils. Devils are typically evil, angels are typically good.
Right. And then they're both lawful because they have a very strict set of rules that they follow. And, but they try to do it towards one way or the other. Like lawful evil, the devils play by rules, but they will bend them, not break them.
Right.
The lawful good, a rule is a rule.
Yeah.
It is that way for a reason, for the betterment of all society. You should follow it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
tending towards the good side, they're not obviously going to do something terrible, but they will.
Yeah.
And then also we've already hit on some examples of the paladin being lawful good. They follow certain strictures, certain, in this case now, codes and
tenets
that they follow for the greater good of
society.
Yeah,
like a paladin might kill a child to save an entire nation.
Yeah, and in the lawful good, he'd probably feel terrible about it, but he had to do it.
Right.
So, where a lawful evil paladin would probably kill that child, not feel bad about it, and said, "Nah, that's fine. Doesn't need to happen."
Yeah.
It's a means to an end.
No remorse for me. Yeah, means to an end. It had to be done.
Or a chaotic evil paladin would love that. Like, yes, that's exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, but also instead of having a swift death, a chaotic evil paladin would maybe torture her for a few days, see what else he could get out of the child,
or kill him in front of his parents.
Yeah,
just for fun. But when we get into some of the examples, we could also go into the greater universe and how these things work with angels. They have certain strictures. That's how they work, right?
Right.
We also have the Fey creatures. Now, Fey typically tend to be chaotic good. Not all Fey creatures. Obviously, you get down to like the Underdark or the Underfey kind of creatures. They typically be more chaotic evil or neutral evil in some cases.
Right.
But, they play by a different set of rules. Modrones, pure neutral.
Yeah.
There's nothing. They have actually, I think they're lawful neutral. There's a rule. Yeah, they are lawful neutral because there is a definite law in the world that everything has to go by.
Right.
It doesn't matter good, evil, bad, whatever.
Plus, don't Modros have things telling them what to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go all the way up to a specific prime, and then the prime.
They have a chain of command that has to be followed.
Yeah, and each one has a specific amount of instructions it can only do and cannot go above.
Yeah. But then,
below.
You have the other aspect, which is like the chaotic good and chaotic evil. Your Robin Hood, and then, the Drow from Minzo Berenson.
Yeah. And that's... Those are examples of how certain things fit into these alignments. They classically, that's what you would assume them to be. And how they're supposed to function.
And, the book's not saying that all of these are that way. They're just saying that they're kind of generally put together as a whole.
Yeah. And as a whole, they will have these tendencies. They will do these type of things. That doesn't mean a singular one couldn't do something different. That doesn't mean that one of them doesn't have the ability to make a choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's in a tiger's nature to hunt, kill, eat.
Right.
So sorry, Siegfried and Roy. Yeah, it's in the tiger's nature. It has a tendency. It doesn't matter that they, will basically raise those tigers and train them. It still had a natural predator instinct.
Yeah, and that's what it's, naturally going to do. Does that mean it wants to do it? No. But is it hungry enough to do it? Yeah, it'll do it. Yeah. So,
let your cat outside. It'll go kill a bird, even though you never taught it to.
So that also brings to the point of like some of these creatures, especially extraplanar creatures that that follow a stricture. A devil will make a deal, right? And
Right.
the devil will try to follow that deal to the letter. That doesn't mean a devil might not make a deal that would actually benefit the person. Like,
Yeah, but
just because the devil might make a deal that will benefit him, that doesn't necessarily mean that the devil won't make a deal that would be good for both parties.
Mm-hmm.
Will they typically do that? No, they typically won't. But they might. This devil might like this person. This devil could be the father of this character. And if we're talking about tieflings, and for whatever reason, this devil is having some off paternal instincts that say, we're going to make both deals. We're both going to come out of this okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to give you some power.
there are times trying to make a deal with the devil, they would try and leave it very open ended and like twist it where it's like, oh, you want boots of Elvenkind? Sure, I can get you some boots of Elvenkind. I'll make them appear right in front of you, no problem.
Yeah.
What he forgot to tell you is that there's going to be a person inside those boots when he makes them appear.
Right.
That you have to either take care of that person and or you just made a bad deal and now that person walks off.
Or stole it from a dragon horde and the dragon knows the scent of all its items. It's coming for you now. That's an example of that. Now, on the other side of that, an angel could, it's always there for good, but come out of the sky and just absolutely obliterate somebody. And when you ask it why, it'll say, I wanted to. And it doesn't even have to explain to you. What it did is definitely an evil act by the moral code of this universe. It came down and obliterated this person, and all it says to you in return is, I wanted to. Doesn't mean it doesn't do it. Now, it might have some whole different circumstances of what it's playing by, but that is one aspect of you would go, oh my God, that angel is evil.
Yeah, unknowingly, or not knowing that the person that got obliterated was the sole reason that angel lost its best friend.
Yeah. I mean, it's
that person.
It's an angel of vengeance.
Yeah.
It's playing out its things, but playing by alignments doesn't mean a creature is going to always be that way in every circumstance. As a DM, don't be so strict with them. It's cool if they do that, and as a whole, you should play them that way. But make sure that there's flexibility in those too.
Well, yeah, because
they have ideals and bonds and personality traits as well.
Because it's who's to say people or things can't change?
That's true. Fallen angels.
Yeah, because I remember
redeemed devils.
I remember I was playing a drow once who was chaotic good, and because of the events that happened in the campaign, he started switching over to chaotic neutral because it was like, there's nothing good in this world and I need to just be out for me.
So that brings another point is alignment switching. Used to be you would have to pay experience to change your alignment, right?
Oh, I had no idea about that. I don't remember that.
Second edition, I believe. Second, and even in third edition, there was some restriction to changing your alignment. You are that alignment because actually in that edition, those editions, alignment mattered.
Oh,
especially in third edition, alignment was a huge part of the
mechanic. If a paladin went against a law, like they could just straight up lose their powers.
Yeah. So allowing a character to change their alignment based on skill, or based on story, is that something that should be allowed? I personally think, yeah. If you think your old alignment doesn't fit you, right? If it benefits you, write it down. Change your alignment. Say, yeah, these factors have led me to play this way. You're right.
That's the thing. I think if your player character is going to change alignment, they should have a good explanation or reason why they've changed alignment. It shouldn't just be one of those things where it's like, oh, we found this item that only attunes to evil people. You know what? I want the power. I'm just going to be evil now. Well, why? What happened to make this change?
Yeah, well, every major change to a character should be explained in some way. Somehow it should be rationalized, and not just because somebody says, I want to. No, you're... In this case, when everybody assumes you to be the chaotic good person you are, you should give a reason why, or roleplay why, you're choosing to follow this law to the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to bend,
I remember one time I was playing a cleric and we raided a goblin cave, and one of the goblins straight up surrendered, threw his weapon down, surrendered, and I was playing a lawful good cleric, and I was like, hey, you know what? This goblin surrendered. He's talking to us. He doesn't want to die. We shouldn't kill him. But the party was very for killing this goblin. And I was like, no, he surrendered. He's defenseless. He threw his weapon down. He's actually talking to us. Like, no, we can't kill this goblin. The party ended up killing him, and I refused to heal the party at that point afterwards. To the point to where I basically had to go create a new character because my character at that point did not want to do anything with the rest of the party.
Which is a great example of playing towards the alignment and actually using that to promote a story. Because actually, both sides of you guys are not wrong. Because if they're playing by the way the universe perceives things, that goblin is evil. That goblin is only asking for mercy so it can get away and do evil later. So for what their point of view, playing devil's advocate on this, devils, they believe that they were doing right by getting rid of this thing, making sure it was gone. But however, your moral code said, no, it's ask for mercy, and I would be wrong to not give it mercy when it's now helping us. It's benefiting society in your point of view, because if it's helping you, it's helping the rest of everybody else. It's not trying to kill us. It's throwing down its weapon.
Right. Now
it's acting good. So from both points of view, that's definitely plausible. And the DM must be like laughing inside, going, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. It definitely was interesting and had great storytelling. But at the same time, I really hated spending 3 hours making a new character that would fit into the group that I was into. But it worked out in the end.
Yeah, it worked out. And that's a fun example of alignment mattering in a specific instance. What's the belief? Because we've talked about moral codes, right?
Right.
But every culture has a different moral code.
Yes, because what is a good act in one person's culture is not a good act in another person's culture.
Right. Like, perfect example is my wife does not eat beef. It's bad for her to do so. Because of her religion, and I love hamburgers. I love steak. Okay, morally, neither of us is really wrong, but that's her moral standard on that, and that's my moral standard, and that's a very basic moral standard. That's not a whole lot. But when you talk about in D&D, here's a real question that's popped up: is an orc evil? Right?
Yeah, well, if you go by the lore in the Forgotten Realms, the classic D&D setting, then your typical orc would be evil. That's not to say that there aren't good orcs.
Right.
But generally, a orc is evil. They tend to raid and pillage and they
eat people.
They're all about the orcs. They don't really care about the other races.
So here's this is where we're talking about getting a little heady on this, a little extra. But what an orc is doing, is it evil to itself? It's doing exactly what it needs to survive.
It's doing exactly what it was raised.
And its society says this is good. Going pillaging is good for us.
Yeah, we're hunters and gatherers, and if you happen to be hunting other races, elves, dwarves, humans, whatever, then guess what? We're here for the orcs. We're not here for the other races. The other races are impinging on our territory.
Right. They are evil because they're the ones in the way, taking all our resources that we should have.
They came to our dungeon and are trying to get our treasure hoard.
Right. Yeah. And then they're trying to hurt our master. In case that our master he might be mean to us sometimes, but we haven't had to worry about food for the last 5 months.
Well, I mean,
and we have pretty weapons, and then we have a bunch of different things.
Look at the Hobbit. Was Smaug evil? He was in that mountain, minding his own business with his treasure hoard.
Yeah, that he's
the dwarves and the hobbits came to steal his treasure and kill him. He was minding his own business.
Yeah, but in that same vein, Smaug also did take that from the dwarves first. So
Yes.
and a whole bunch of other people.
But many people?
But that's his nature.
How many people would have been saved had they not gone and done that?
That's true.
There's a whole city that got demolished because they went to get that dragon horde.
Yeah, and that's the repercussions of what somebody believes is good versus what somebody believes is evil. Also, how somebody should act lawful and how somebody shouldn't act chaotic versus those expectations.
And so that's also expectations. That's not to say that you won't find the opposite of what the person's nature is. Drow, Menzoberranzan, naturally chaotic evil.
Society as a whole is chaotic evil.
But then you got Dritsto Erden and
Zaknafine wasn't necessarily evil.
No, because he actually hated his own race.
Yeah, he hated, but he could still be in an evil.
But yeah, like he evilly enjoyed slaughtering his own people.
And Jarlaxle is not really. I mean, he's kind of chaotic and he does evil acts, but he's considered evil.
I would consider him a chaotic neutral.
He's more towards chaotic neutral, but I've seen books where they consider him evil. He is an evil character.
But yeah, that's the being perceived from other people.
Correct. That's the important part, is that all of this is a perception from one point of view towards this. And this is the point I'm trying to make is each alignment is based off of one perception. So looking at other cultures, they have a different perception. Especially in D&D, the different races have different perceptions of what's good and bad. And they're going to take those perceptions and force them, because they only see one way too. They're going to put it on somebody else.
Right.
And that's where a lot of the role play fun can happen, is playing with those perceptions of understanding. Because Eberron, one of my favorite campaign settings, has a lot of play with those perceptions. What's good or evil? Well, we all think orcs are evil, but yet out in the demon waste, there's an orc tribe that follows a lawful good deity, and they are literally the only thing holding back the evil from coming out of the demon waste.
Right, but I mean, not only that, I mean, R.A. Salvatore, the creator of Dritz, actually had a short story that dealt with all of this.
Yeah, and saving the goblin.
Yeah, Dritz found a goblin named Nosheim, and this goblin spoke common perfectly. He didn't want to hurt anybody, and the goblin himself, when he was talking to Dritz, was like, these humans have killed other goblins of my kind, and probably rightfully so, because they're inherently, naturally evil towards that race.
Yeah. So its understanding of its own morality lets it actually justify what's happened to its own people, which is a great play on alignment. And these are all things that people should use to spice up their stories of understanding, what does that actually mean? To be neutral good, what does that actually mean? What kind of things would I be perceived to do because I'm not neutral good, right?
Right.
But to what extent would I go to make those things that are perceived for me to do? What extent would I do to help that or to do that? Will I kill somebody for that? And as a DM, this is fertile ground to play with. Like, how far can you push a party to be good? Like Descent into Avernus. Inside that campaign has a lot of instances of you are a good party.
Oh man, it pushes you to be evil, something serious.
And how far would you go, or how much would you resist to not turn? By the end of that campaign, are you going to be the evil that this place forces you to be, or are you going to stay above it and be good? And so, as a DM, use these alignments. Don't force people to be on it. Use them.
Yeah, I mean, tinker them, play with them, and it really helps to build character for your players.
Yeah, and also maybe at session 0, when you're dealing with starting your campaign, say, hey guys, look, listen, alignments matter in my campaign. The creatures that have these alignments are going to play by those rules. Or vice versa. in my Eberron campaign, when I started running it, this several times I've run one, I usually say, hey, look, things don't play by the way you think they are. They're not going to be the alignment that you think they are. A red dragon might be awful good, and a gold dragon might be
chaotic evil.
Chaotic evil. So don't expect that. And I made it fully clear. Do not expect things to play by normal rules.
Yeah, because what is it? Didn't you, in one of your campaigns, you had a... it was either a copper...
It was a silver dragon.
Was it a silver dragon?
Sovereign. Got forced a dragon mark upon, and he was evil, and he was smaller than the rest, and he called himself sovereign because he wanted to rule the world by using the draconic prophecy. He thought he was the embodiment of the end of the prophecy, and he was going to remake the world.
Oh no, not that dragon.
Oh well, because he was totally evil.
The copper or the bronze dragon. I can't remember which one, which metallic dragon it was. But it would literally go into towns, kidnap people,
Waterdeep,
put them in a maze, and it wouldn't let them out of the maze unless it told them stories or created stories for it to hear and tell other people, and then it would take them back. It essentially was getting what he wanted, but kind of in an evil way.
Right. Or the other one that you guys befriended in the harbor of Waterdeep.
Oh yeah.
It just stole stuff.
Just for the fun of it.
It didn't know any better. It was like and I played it where it was like you guys told it that stealing is bad. Because he said, "Oh, you don't have it on you? Well, then it's not yours. So you left it in a room, I'm going to take it."
Yeah, he also mentioned the fact that a lot of people in this town just leave their doors unlocked. We're like, you don't go in a person's home and take their things. So.
And I believe he was a bronze. Yeah, he was a bronze dragon. He was not a wormling, the step above, a young bronze dragon, and he was good. He wanted to help people, but he didn't understand theft is considered an evil act. It's considered bad to steal from other people. And you guys taught him how to not steal and made him give it back. And it won't. And
we also reported him to the Black Staff.
Yeah, he was on house arrest for a while, but they let him out for good behavior. But he had to be taught. But that was one perception that he didn't know anything. To him, it's fine. You left your stuff. If you didn't want somebody else to play with it, then because he's not stealing it, he's playing with it. He just happened to move it from point A to point B, and you no longer know where it's at. It's not evil to him. That's not an evil act. But you had to explain to him, no, what you're doing is very bad. Yeah. It's going to piss off a lot of people.
Yeah, what's the deeper intent of this?
Yeah. And that's another good example of alignment. What are their perceptions? What do they think? Also, every villain ever. Like, classic example of now a very evil villain is Thanos. Most of us have watched the movies, a lot of us have read the comic books. Thanos, what he believed he was doing was
saving the universe.
Saving the universe. He was doing the ultimate sacrifice to make sure that everything survives.
Well, yeah, because, even remember when he told Gamora, she was like, "You slaughtered half of my race." And he said, and guess what? They now live very prosperous, and everyone had full bellies, and they never had to worry about starving or any of this other stuff.
And he did it all where he just said, this random half dead, this random half lives. He didn't choose. He just said, this is it, 50-50. You have to do what it needs to be done. Everybody else thinks he's evil, but in Thanos' mind, he's doing good.
Yeah, he was
good.
He was killing the few to save the many because...
in this case, he's killing the half to save the half. Because
that half would eventually grow and prosper and become more.
Which he also understood at some point he'll have to do it again.
Yeah, but at the point that civilization was heading in a very downward spiral, and him doing that is what saved them.
Right. And,
were there better ways to do it? Probably.
Maybe there were. And then but that's something to explore. with DMs is how do these people justify what they are? Will a lawful good paladin lead a crusade to kill half of the nation because that's the only way to save this nation? And in some cases, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And
I think it is a possibility.
We talked about this before. You had an example of the Crusades. The classic paladin is based off a crusader. That's where they came from. That idea is what they were doing is holy and good. They did a lot of atrocious acts.
Yeah.
Horrible things, but what they believed they were doing was holy and righteous and good for the world. Does that make it right? Well, to them it did. But to the rest of them, no.
Yeah.
Especially the Arab population down there and the Muslim empire that was there at the time. No, not good. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But, that's one of the things, like burning a forest. We all think burning a forest is bad, but sometimes you got to burn the undergrowth so the trees will grow better.
Yeah, there have been many instances where forests have been burned so that the next cycle comes through better and stronger.
Yeah, cutting lumber down is also an important part of keeping a forest healthy. Is you have to cut some of the bigger trees down, remove them, so the newer trees will sprout up and keep a forest healthy, so it doesn't overgrow itself and kill itself. But that's not necessarily an alignment thing. But when you put that in the context of an alignment, druid...
How would a druid see that exactly?
How does a druid see you messing with its forest? Are they okay with the people cutting lumber down? Or are they not? Or is that druid going to go talk to them and try and play nice and say, hey, look, listen, you can cut that tree down, that tree down, that tree down, that's fine. You cut any more of those and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, or maybe
is that good?
Maybe that druid says this is my territory. If you want to cut anything down, you have to talk to me. I have to go talk to the animals, and then we have to make this okay.
I have to go find the exact trees that are okay with being cut. I have to talk to every one of them, and then the ones that say they're ready to go, I'll let you cut. But those are moral implications. Those are ways. We've given you guys a lot of examples of ways that alignment, which in 5th edition is not a big thing.
No.
But on a grander scale, it is. And can really play into your story, your campaign of what you want to pull off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and especially for world building, because this is one of those things when you're creating a city, a town, a small village, you're going to go, okay, well, what's the general morality of this village, of this city? And there's going to be some variance in there, but what's the general consensus?
Yeah. And then also taking that example and finding a real life example and going, okay, the Spartans acted this way. They're probably mostly lawful neutral because they are willing to do bad things, but they followed a very strict laws.
Oh, yeah.
To live a healthy, good life. But also remember, inside all that, there are exceptions. So don't get mad that something's considered evil. Play with the exceptions. You can do that. And then just remember that the society as a whole might be called this alignment as well, but a large group of people, normal people, might not be that.
Yeah,
and it's true, but this society plays by those rules.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, then change it. Play the orc that is good. Play the kobold that isn't setting up traps and doing whatever. Play the devil that's I'm in a devil society, I really think this is stupid and they're all dumb, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to try and become an angel instead.
Or play a monstrous campaign like we did for our last ones. My last Eberron campaign was purely based on monsters. You playing things that the rest of the major nations look upon as being rough. Well, not necessarily monsters, but they don't accept you as much. And then how are they perceiving you and how you act?
Well, even in that campaign, you would explain things to us, and your explanation and how people treated us caught us off guard because we're so used to playing a humanoid race that where we had a general idea of what society was like and structures were like, but then it's like, oh no, you're in the goblin world now. And it's like, oh, this is how things are done, and oh, so even though we did this, that's actually okay. It's not. We're not about to get into a big battle because of this. What we did was all right.
Perfectly acceptable. Perfectly fine. What you did is not evil.
Yeah.
And then the dichotomy, the flip to when you guys went over into Breland, which is more free and more, because they started off in Dargoon, which is Goblinoid Nation. It's very lawful, based on the race.
Mm-hmm.
And then flipping over into this area now, and where, oh, we have free choices. We can do lots of things. And then them looking at you going, expecting one thing, and expecting you to be that way, and then some of them going, huh? You're not some ruffian? You like looking at the artificer go, oh, you build magical stuff? What is, huh? And then that play of social norms being just broken by just the different look of like, well, I expect you to be one way.
Well, I mean, even when we were on the train and we saved that one passenger from getting kidnapped, like the reactions that everyone had, like when we first showed up, they were ready to fight us, and then when we were like, "Get the hell out of our way! We're here to fix this," and it was like, what's going on?"
And even after that, you were thanked by them, but you were brought in for questioning. Yeah. Versus if they were a human party, they probably would never been brought in for questioning. They would have been thanked, saved, and shoot on their way. But because you were hobgoblins, they were like, "Well, thanks for what you did, but why? What do you want to do this?" Because they assumed you're a specific way. And see, that's why you guys should play with these assumptions, because they create a
fantastic scenarios for you and your players to play out and see where that story goes.
And it also helps people to, even on a greater sense, understand each other. Because now you can really look at something and go, oh, okay, I can see where you're coming from on that. I get that. I don't agree with it, but I get it. And that's fine. And that's, as playing D&D, I think that's one of the greatest strengths of this game, is understanding each other and what some other things might do. It's a hidden strength of this game. So
most definitely.
Yeah, this one got a little lengthy, a little out there, but I mean, it's a good topic that we thought needed addressing, and we wanted to share our thoughts on and
it.
Explain it a little bit more. Hopefully grow your understanding and the fun you have with D&D.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's not hack and slash.
Things like this are a lot of the reasons we love playing D&D, because we get to experience these things in game that we don't get to experience outside of the game.
That's right. So if you really like this one, and I hope you did, go look at our other videos. Hit the bell. Like the video for us, and comment. Tell us what you think. Maybe you have some good examples of alignments, or a good story of how believing one thing caused something else to happen. You know?
Or if you disagree with us, put it in the comments.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your guys' viewpoints on this and see what y'all have to say.
And help grow the community. Maybe you'll help the community by your points that you make.
Right.
Should be good. So
otherwise, guys, just keep playing games, playing some D&D, have fun with your friends, and having those great stories to tell each other later on.
Yep.
And keep rolling them nat 20s.